For many of us, this is a time of anxiety, a time of feeling on edge. Even if we don't all agree on the reasons why, many of us have a widespread sense that our planet, our world, our country, even some parts of our own community are not working. They're not going in a positive or sustainable direction. Yesterday morning early, I stopped by the food pantry to drop off some information about free air sealing and insulating materials that we'll be providing there at a workshop next Saturday. I've been going there a lot lately, but yesterday, the parking lot was packed. There was a long line out the door. The director said, "We're overwhelmed." Every day, a news story tells us something else unprecedented. Threats to our democracy. Last week, a hurricane so strong we need to create a new Category 6. And just this week, new discoveries about a massive ice shelf that broke off Antarctica. And I don't know about you, but I have to take the news in smaller doses. It's easy to feel that our actions just won't make that much difference on the issues that most alarm us. It's easy to feel immobilized or even panic-stricken. It's hard to know what we can possibly do. This morning I want to share a little more. You've heard some from my colleagues about the story of Sustainable Middleborough. I think I wanted them all, Sandy, I wanted everyone to speak because I just think it's so important to hear all the voices and the motivations. And I want you to know a little bit more about what motivated us, how we decided to take action, and what keeps us at it. So over 8 years ago, as you've heard, we started with a class here at this church. Since then, we've had heartbreaking defeats. We've shed tears together. We've had to give up plans that we started because there was just too much resistance. But we have also had many important, gratifying victories that have made a difference. The year 2017 feels similar in many ways to now. 27 people here spent 5 Saturday mornings early that year on a course that Dan Hodgkiss and I taught called Our Place in the Web of Life. And we liked this curriculum because it was about self-education, and it reflected on our faith and values, and it forced us to take a hard look at our own role in harming our environment. But this was different from most religious curricula. It was designed to move us beyond simply educating ourselves with book and film discussions and lectures, to move us beyond despair and into the place Joanna Macy calls active hope, and into hands-on action right here in our own community that we could commit to for more than a few months or few years. We formed 4 teams: energy, water, waste, and food. And we went out into our community and we talked to the people in town who provided those services, and we asked them, how do we get these resources? Who or what or where is harmed in the process of our using, accumulating, consuming them? And what can a committed local group like us do about the harm that we cause? It was Dodie who started driving all over eastern Massachusetts seeking out who else was working on this issue, and most importantly, listening. She also started showing up at the board meeting of our local utility commission just to listen. And for 8 years now, someone from our group still observes and sometimes speaks each month. We met other community grassroots groups like ours starting up in towns all over the state, many of them called things like Sustainable Plymouth or Sustainable South Shore, and we still regularly meet and collaborate with them. And that is one of the most hopeful signs I know, and one of the things that keeps us at this. That's knowing that we are part of a movement that is happening in towns all over our state, really all over the world. We learned how, at least in normal times, state legislative policy so much more directly affects most of our lives than what's happening at the federal level. It's also where we can make our voice most heard and really have an effect. We've gotten to know all of our state legislators and their aides. They certainly know us. And our group is now very well known in the state climate advocacy movement. There are a lot of towns that have done a lot on climate. A lot of them are wealthier. A lot of them have even staff on their city or town government. We don't have that here, but people in this movement know Middleborough because of what we've done here. We've been part of a coalition of 200 grassroots groups like us that have successfully advocated for several state climate bills that will have put us on track to be carbon-free by 2050. But even more effective than that has been our showing up and making asks of our local government. We asked for, as you maybe has heard a little bit, for more renewable and non-emitting energy in our electricity supply. It's gone from 27 to about 67% since then. We've asked for low-income customers to get a discounted rate and higher rebates, and for a 0% loan program to help our neighbors afford home energy improvements they want to make. Earlier this year, we asked our select board to adopt a resolution that the town will seek out and buy whenever possible products that are free of forever chemicals in their own procurement process. We are now the 3rd municipality in the state to have one of those resolutions. So all of these things that we asked for and much more have come to pass. So every 2 weeks for these 8 years, our leadership team has been meeting over kitchen tables and Zoom, planning and organizing. And for me, that is another motivator that keeps me at this. All of the things that Joanna Macy said, getting to experience in community the commitment, skills, follow through, inspiration, and intelligence of all these people you just heard from, and so many more. Sandy and Alan, Bill, Patty, Dodie, John, who's here too, John Gregory, and many others. 30 or so people regularly say yes when we ask for volunteers and ask them to show up to meetings or events or our annual fair. Several of those folks are here too. I don't know if I'm gonna get everybody, but Jeff and Cheryl and Danny and Lois and Joan. I don't know if I see anybody else, but thank you all for that. Almost 300 people have signed up to get our action alerts, to make calls, write letters, volunteer, and come to our events. It's about creating and doing this work in community, for our community. And now we've determined that what will have the most impact on our town's carbon emissions is weatherizing all of the old leaky housing here. More than half of the housing in Middleboro was built before 1960, which means it is uninsulated or certainly under-insulated. The average home loses 25 to 45% of energy and money that's spent on heating and cooling to air leakage. What a waste that is. So weatherization is also one of the best ways we can serve our low and moderate income neighbors, helping them save both money and energy and be warmer in the winter and cooler in the summer. We became a nonprofit, and we've landed several state and private grants to help us with that mission. And we also hired, as you heard, a half-time navigator to give free guidance through the often complicated process of weatherization projects. At our organizational retreat this summer, a couple of our advisors told us that our genius has been our ability to bridge partisan or other divides in our community, especially in this conservative-leaning town. We've taken care in our language, in our materials, and we choose issues that are hard for anybody to argue with. Saving money on heating and cooling, weatherization and air sealing, safe drinking water, eliminating toxic forever chemicals from our homes and community, leaving behind a good life and a good community for our children. In the past month, I've been talking to several of our local government folks who have very different views from mine on almost every issue. And whenever I see one town employee, he's always trying to get me to get in an argument with him about electric vehicle mandates or natural gas. And I just tell him, hey, we're not going to talk about that. Here's what we agree on, that we need to put many more resources into stopping the waste by weatherizing our old housing in town. He agrees. He's also adamant that we need to reform our incentives so they work for both landlords and tenants who are left out. We couldn't agree more. He's a landlord and has been advising us on our new landlord guide and helping us identify developers in town that we can reach out to. We may disagree on a lot of things, but we can work together on this, and that feels good. I really believe we all have so much more in common than we do differences. We agree on so much more than we disagree on. Don't we all want meaningful work, a good home, a better life for our children, food and heat, friendships and community, health care when we need it, and basic freedoms? And isn't that where our religious values, our beliefs in inherent worth and dignity, interdependence, and the web of life also lead us? Some years ago, I had the good fortune to spend several days with Carolyn McDade for my work writing for the UU World magazine. And Carolyn is the songwriter who wrote Spirit of Life and also the hymn we just sang, Rising Green. And I sat in on one of the choirs of women activists that she wrote songs for to sing at their meetings, protests, hearings, and benefit concerts. And that day, we were at Crystal Springs in Plainville, and the group was singing a collection she had written based on the United Nations Earth Charter. Even though that charter was written more than 20 years ago, the ideas still feel as resonant, or even more so today. And here's a little excerpt. We stand at a critical moment in Earth's history, a time when humanity must choose its future. As the world becomes increasingly interdependent and fragile, the future at once holds great peril and great promise. The choice is ours. Form partnerships to care for Earth and one another, or risk the destruction of ourselves and the diversity of life. We have the knowledge and technology to provide for all and to reduce our impacts on the environment. We must realize that when basic needs have been met, human development is primarily about being more, not having more. Having or being, the choice is ours. In this time of anxiety, we must first care for ourselves and for one another. Our fears about what is happening, or of the catastrophes that will or might happen in the future, they can push us to anger and urgency. And for some people, that's galvanizing. For others, it may be immobilizing. But without hope, active hope, we have little chance of collective action. We don't have to be optimistic about the future. We know we can't keep living as we have been. But hope, the belief that our future will be better with our action than without it, that is not negotiable. Blessed be.